I am not a believer in like jump, head first into the deep end. I do think we need to look at our finances, right? I do think that, I'm not a big like Gary Vaynerchuk, like fuck it, quit it all tomorrow, like whatever. Like, I think we should look at our finances, especially if it's not just us, especially if we have a partner. Hey everyone, thanks for joining me for another episode here at Female Empowered. I'm your host, Krista Gurka, and I'm excited. I have a guest again today. I had gotten away from doing guest interviews over the summer just because it was a little challenging to get people on the podcast. But here is going to be a female founder feature, and I'm really excited to have Ali Zeno here from Essentials Physical Therapy and Training. All right. So I'm going to just read a little bit of her bio, and then I'm going to let her introduce, because reading a bio gives no one like the kudos they deserve. So Ali is a pelvic health physical therapist practicing in New Jersey, starting her business in an effort to have more flexibility for her growing family. Ali sees clients out of a local OBGYN practice and also does pelvic health coaching for out-of-state clients. Ali is about to transition to being a mom of two and continues to focus on growing her business. So by the time this actually airs, no, you won't have had the baby yet. So Ali is currently pregnant, getting ready to go on maternity leave. And I think that, I think you have a very, very interesting business model with the combination of virtual and in person. And so, and I think that's a question a lot of people have. Like, if I'm virtual, can I do in person? The cost of getting your own brick and mortar. I thought it was fabulous that you went in with an OBGYN office. So we're going to talk all about that. But for now, let me have you introduce yourself to our guests and give yourself a little more kudos than what like a short bio will do.
Okay, great. Hi, everybody. My name's Ali. As Krista said, I'm a pelvic floor physical therapist. I started my business, as maybe you've heard some people doing, right at the height of COVID. I decided to have a virtual model because I saw friends and friends of friends struggling after they had a baby and having nowhere to turn because everyone was kind of stuck at home, clinics were closed. So I thought, well, here's a huge gap that I can fill. So I started very slowly seeing some clients virtually, progress. I guess a year and a half, I ended up moving. So I always kept on a few virtual clients. Then I moved out of state. I was living in Maryland at the time. My business continued to grow. So I'm in a place now where I see clients virtually. I have one full virtual day a week and then a couple other hours of virtual clients scattered in throughout the week. And then I have clients that I see in person. And as of this summer, I had officially moved to working in my business completely full time and officially quitting my PRN job.
Yeah. But you were in that PRN job for an extended period of time. It wasn't just a couple hours. So tell everyone, so how many hours were you working PRN? And you were in a facility, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So how many hours were you PRN?
So once I moved to New Jersey, I was working PRN. I was seeing anywhere from 25 to 30 visits a week while growing my business on the side. That obviously was very overwhelming. And I probably had, my husband could say, multiple breakdowns about how overwhelming it was. Then I got to a point where I cut back to only 3 days a week. So I would see, at that point, I'd see about, let's say, 18 people a week for 3 days and work in my business 2 days.
Originally, that's still a lot.
It was a lot. I mean,
I remember when you first told me, you were like, well, I have a PRN job. And I was thinking, based on what you were telling me you were doing in your business, that it was like 1 day a week or on a Saturday. And when you told me you were doing like 3 days a week and 20 to 20, I was like, what? Yeah. Plus your full-time, plus your own job. That was a lot.
It was a lot. And obviously, in hindsight, looking back, I would have made the switch a lot sooner. I had, like, when I first started working with you, my expectation was that when I came back from maternity leave, I would officially quit my PRN job. And then around the summer, things kind of came to a head where I was like having to basically turn people away and be on this huge wait list just because I didn't have the slots open. And I just said, let's just try it. And worst case scenario, right? If it doesn't work, there's always something else. So I did, I kind of had that business model, because you hear people do different things, or people just completely quit cold turkey, that's it, full time by themselves. Other people listening to this might be in that situation where, like, financially, that's not possible.
That's
So I
not an
really
option
did
for
the, like,
sure.
really slow growth kind of a thing. But once I officially made that decision, it was like, just,
Go all in.
yeah.
Yeah. And listen, I am not a believer in like jump, head first into the deep end. I do think we need to look at our finances, right? I do think that, I'm not a big like Gary Vaynerchuk, like, fuck it, quit it all tomorrow, like whatever. Like, I think we should look at our finances, especially if it's not just us, especially if we have a partner, especially if we have children, maybe we care for our parents or we're in debt, right? So, but I do think there will never be a perfect time to jump. There will never be a perfect time to take the big leap. The same way there's never a perfect time of like when to decide to get married, when to decide to have kids, when to decide to have a second child, right? So sometimes it's scary when you especially leave a stable paycheck to take the leap. And so sometimes there's a period of time where we do hold on a little bit too much. And there, when people are ready is when I'm like, let's figure out how many months of finances you need to save up for, right? And then once we're there, we're like, look at the wait list you have. Like, all you need to do is get your wait list on. So you did a very smart thing. And how I want to know, so you just left your PRN job, not very recently,
Just in
right?
June.
In June. Okay.
So I've been, I guess, 2 official months, which is
yeah.
great.
And so what happened in July in
So
your
then
business?
in July, I had a 10K month, which was
amazing.
Did not expect that at all, but it
Amazing.
just goes to show I should have done this a long time ago.
Well, I think you weren't ready for that at that point, but now, like now you feel the confidence, right? Like, I can do this. And I think the great thing that you even posted in our group was something like, now I feel comfortable like paying for daycare or something like that, right? It just is a thought. You can do it. It can be done, right? So, all right. So let's talk about your niche specifically. So pelvic health is a niche, but then within pelvic health, there's niches. So what is kind of like your niche within the pelvic health field and what it is that you specialize in?
So I really focus on helping women that are active, women that may have been athletes in college or super active in CrossFit and just really enjoy exercise and use that as an outlet. So that's absolutely my focus and my specialty. So usually the women that I'm seeing are active in some capacity while they are pregnant. They have their baby and then they're like, oh, this isn't quite going as I would expect, getting back into things. So I really try to help with that transition from having the baby to back to whatever that activity is, whether it's running, CrossFit, etc. So I definitely say that's my niche, helping the active mother exercise and then also, heal and feel like she can handle her life without her body just like falling apart. And if you've had a baby, you know what that feels like after you have a baby, that you're just kind of like held together by a thread. So building that strength back up.
I know. And fast forward like 30 years, going through menopause has been like this eye-opening experience for me that I'm like, what's happening to my body? So, when I think that I love working with pelvic health therapists, it's not my specialty in pelvic health. I graduated in the 1900s, I like to tell people. So pelvic health was just breaking the surface back then. Like, they didn't teach about it in schools. There was very few clinicians that were even doing it. And so even now that it's become much more mainstream, it's still not really mainstream. Like, we may think it's mainstream because we talk about it a lot, but if you ask 10 of your female friends, probably 9 of them will have never heard of any type of treatment for down there care, right? And so I think it's great. And I think we should continue to have the conversation of what happens to your body during pregnancy. And not everyone's going to be the same. And not every pregnancy is going to be the same. What happens to your body after pregnancy? And I think there's a ton of value now in learning, especially with, whether it be the trans community or non-binary community of that it might not just be considered like pregnant women, and it just opens up the realm to service another group of like marginalized individuals that could come to light. And I think everyone needs that type of advocate for them, like, to someone to go to. So when you started your kind of virtual practice, did that start because of COVID, or was that kind of how you wanted to do it anyways?
So it's something that had been in my mind, and then COVID happening kind of pushed me forward. So I had like I guess unique compared to my friends and the people around me, a unique experience after I had my son, where we lived in a state where we didn't really have family close by to help. I worked full time in a traditional orthopedic clinic at the time. My husband worked a very demanding job with a lot of hours, and he strictly worked at night. So that first year and a half of my son's life, and myself struggling with some things and feeling like I needed care, and being like, it's impossible to find. I couldn't get to a visit, like to a clinic, because my son was already in daycare from 8:30 to 6. I was like, when am I going for a visit when my husband works at night? So that kind of got the ball rolling, where I'm thinking there have to be other women out there like me in the world that are struggling to heal after having a baby, or struggling with an injury, what have you, and just don't have access to care. And that's when this idea of seeing people virtually started to form in my head. Then COVID hit, and it kind of just kind of snowballed from there, where I said, okay, here's an opportunity where women will be open to doing virtual care. And, nowadays we have so many resources. There are companies out there that make different tools that women can use to help their pelvic floor heal. So while, I would only take on certain clients virtually, I didn't need to do a pelvic floor assessment to get them better, to help them stop leaking, to help them get out of pain, to help them, just feel better in their body after having a baby.
Yeah. And I think if there was a little bit of blessing to COVID, is that people were kind of forced into this virtual platform,
Yes.
Whether it be, not that it didn't exist before, virtual training has been around, telehealth has been around, but there was definitely something, especially in the physical therapy world, where there was this on both sides, from PTs that felt
Yes.
like they needed to have their hands on people,
Yes.
to the patient that were like, well, what is that worth if you can't see me or touch me, right? And so it's almost like they were forced to experience it and see, oh, I can actually get value for this, and it saves me time.
Yes.
Right. And travel. And as a mother,
Yes.
When my pediatrician started doing virtual sessions, I was like, thank
Yeah.
God, and they're like, well, they're a little more expensive and we don't know if insurance will cover it. For me, I was like, I don't care. Right. I will pay more so that I don't have to leave work, drive, wait in the waiting room, and then drive back. Right. So again, this is a big point to like messaging, what we talk about a lot, and who's your ideal customer.
Right.
Sometimes for some mothers specifically, it would be the value of saving time and not having to take a sick kid into the pediatrician, or not having to leave their house when they have a baby to have a session with you, is valuable, even if the price point is a little bit higher.
Yes. And I'd say right now, I mean, my virtual clients, they're a complete mix of moms that stay home with their kids and moms that work from home. So the moms that work from home, they see me on their lunch break. And the moms that stay home with their kids, they see me during nap time, or the kids are there while we do the visit. And I just think it's funny, because when I started seeing people in person, which we'll talk about too, and like how that came about. When I started seeing people in person consistently, I really didn't expect my virtual visits to stay around. Yeah. But I've been shocked that I've still been able to fill pretty much an entire day. And I have, at least 5 to 6 virtual visits a week, because some moms reach out. And it's funny, because I have at least 2 moms that live in the same town as me that see me virtually, but for their life, they're like, I don't have the time to, drive 15 minutes or 20 minutes to an office, see you, and drive back. It's much more efficient.
I totally agree. And there might be other people that would like to see in person, right? And that's why this is a perfect segue to you starting with the OBGYN office, which I think is My gosh, it's like Ernie and Bert, cookies and milk,
Mhm.
right?
Yes.
Like, so let's talk a little bit about how that came to fruition for you.
So I think, especially for anybody listening that has a business, this little story says so much about the importance of treating every single client with respect and kindness. And not that you have to like go above and beyond for every single client, but like be personable, form a relationship with that client. So there was a client I had been seeing. Um, she was very local to me. So I would actually go to her home to treat her. When I had started seeing her, she was pregnant. She literally couldn't walk. Um, and I got her walking. So that was awesome. So she really valued what we worked on and saw how much better she got. Fast forward close to a year, and I'm not joking you, I get a call out of the blue, and it's a local, very popular OBGYN in my office, in my area, calling to see if I would like to see clients in their office. So she called me, and come to find out, this client I had seen close to a year ago worked in that office. She overheard the doctors talking about, it would be really cool to bring on a pelvic PT to help these women. And she just chimed in and said, I have somebody, she's awesome. You have to call Ali. And then they did. And it like literally gives me chills, because if that had not happened, I would have not found that contact. And people ask me, how'd you do that? And I'm like, I can't even say it's who you know. I really think it's just always putting yourself out there, being kind, and like the universe will give back to you.
100%. I'm so glad that you said that, because I could not agree more. I believe so many people in this industry, and I don't, maybe it's because like in the movies, when you look at networking events, it's a bunch of old white men in suits drinking and like sharing business cards. But like,
Yeah.
I believe networking is relationship building. I don't go to networking events to sell anything. What I go to is to make connections, right? And to learn about other people, right? And give a really good service. And I believe the type of marketing that I teach in our programs is about relationship marketing. It's not these like sell, 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 sell. It's like, let's build relationships. Let's provide a phenomenal service, because we're all amazing technicians at what we do. And let that create our
Yes.
our business moving forward. And I think even the first time you and I spoke was well before you joined our program, right?
Yeah.
And so there's people that I've been chatting with for years that later, like, I think I'm ready to join. That's wonderful. When people, all I want to do is like serve, give people, and that's what we can control, right?
Right.
We can control that. I tell people, it's like, imagine if you walked into a party that you didn't know anyone and you were like, buy my stuff. Like, everyone would be like, you're weird. But if you walked around and talked to people, they'd be like, hey, Krista, your friend Ali that was here, she was really cool. Like, I'd love to get together with them again. Like, that's what it's about.
Yes.
Right. Where other people will say your name. And so then you started. So tell us a little bit about in the OBGYN office. So you're there twice a week now, once a week, twice a
Now
week?
I'm there. I am in one of her offices 4 days a week.
4 days a week.
Yeah.
Amazing. And so what does that kind of look like?
So what that looks like is I kind of work with the office manager in two different offices. Well, she's office manager for both. They have two offices that are close to me. So I've worked with the office manager to figure out what hours are best for the practice. So I'd say that's the one thing about not having like my own space, so to speak, is that I have less control over my hours. They tell me when's the best time for me to be there, because obviously when I'm there, I use a room. So we work that out. So I'm in one of the offices 3 days a week. And I basically do a morning shift. I'm gone by 1 p.m. those 3 days. And then one of the days I'm in a different office. I'm there the entire day. And sometimes when I'm there, I see virtual clients, but usually I'm seeing in-person clients there. And it's been great. I mean, they're open to me if I want to hire somebody and bring somebody on to come hours I can't be there. That's something that I can do in the future. So it's been really great. And I think what's been really good is it's also really good for the clients, because they'll send somebody to me. If they end up working with me, if it's a tough case, it's not just like playing phone tag with the doctor. I literally just like walk into like the break room and I'm like, hey, can I talk to you about so-and-so? And it helps. It's really helping. I really think it's helping clients get better faster too, because we have this like collaborative approach.
Totally. I totally. And it sounds like there's even growth potential for you
Yes.
there. Like bring someone on or do an extra day because you started there just 1 day a week and then you went to like
Yes.
2 days a week. And then and that's how it goes. That's how, you know, I think some people think that like business growth has to be this like scale at all costs and these big, huge steps, but sometimes it's very organic. And that's, 1 day to 2 days to
Yes.
3 days to, to maybe I bring someone in on those other days.
Right.
And I think personally, I mean, I've told this story before. I don't know if I've told you the story, but I love my OBGYN. He's just my GYN now. But anyways, he delivered both my kids. And I had 2 10-pound babies. So I've had like, I asked him about like leaking and urinary incontinence and all that stuff. And and he knows I'm a physical therapist. And at one point he said, well, you're light skin, blonde hair, blue eyes. It's like your tissue is like, you're just going to maybe have to have some surgery, but when you're done having kids. And I was like, are you joking? And so I thought he was punking me because I was like, he knows I'm a physical therapist. I think he
Right.
like, oh, I'm just kidding. But he was serious. And so the fact that I think there's OBs out there or even gynecologists, right, that are understanding that there is a big connection between
Yes.
pelvic health and gynecology and obstetrics and pelvic health is for men too. There's definitely from every gamut of pain with sex to prenatal, postnatal, incontinence, all of that kind of stuff. So I think that's a really great collaboration between you and a physician,
Yes.
and so that's phenomenal, and it's built-in clientele.
Yes.
Right.
It's been very nice. And from their perspective, when they were bringing me on, they're like, we're not here to make money off of you. Like I operate my business completely independently of them. And from their perspective, they're like, historically, we've just handed people a sheet of paper and said, here, call these clinics. And then the client would come back and say, well, nobody can see me for 3 months, or nobody can see me for 2 months, or there's nothing close to my house. And they're just like, well, we don't know what to do. So this way, it's been very easy for them too. They can just say, Ali sees people here in the office, reach out to her. And yeah, it's been very nice.
So what kind of agreement do you have with them? Do you pay them rent?
So
Yeah.
basically, yeah, I like operate as a sublease.
Yeah,
So I
perfect.
pay their corporate, I send their corporate a check every month.
Okay, perfect. So that's honestly the safest way for all of us businesses. So, we get people that are like, I had an opportunity to go into a CrossFit gym, or I have to sublease in a chiropractor's office. Honestly, if you're listening to this, the best advice is just pay rent, whether it's an hourly usage, or I think a monthly usage is the best case, to be
Yes.
perfectly honest. Percentages are not great. Like just pay rent, like if you were their landlord. So I think that's fabulous. Now, let's talk a little bit about transition, because I know you're working on this now. What's going to happen when you go on maternity leave? So how did you come to make the decision of what you were going to do when you go on maternity leave, and what then you can share with us what you're actually going to do?
Okay. So I will say that, making the decision to go full-time in my business in June, when I was, I don't know how, I was 5 months pregnant at the time, was so scary.
I believe it.
But it's obviously right choice. So for me, I am just not one of those people that's just going to cut off cold turkey, not speak to anybody after having a baby. I remember after I had my son, feeling very like kind of stir crazy and feeling like my brain was turning to mush. So I kind of thought to myself, well, what do I think I could handle so I don't turn to mush and I can still help people while I'm out. So I came up with this idea where I can still work with some clients while I'm out on maternity leave. So what that will look like is it's going to be like a little 8-week program where my clients can communicate with me, and we can communicate back and forth through Voxer. So easier than texting, easier than sending email, just talking to my phone. So we can communicate about their progress. They can send me videos of their exercises or form. If they're unsure, let me know how things are going. And then I can just simply upload their program in the spreadsheet system that I use twice a month. So over the 8-week period, they could potentially get up to 4 program updates if they need them. And then obviously I'm there to answer questions if problems come up, or if like they are suddenly in pain. So it's going to be, obviously it's a remote way to work with me, but a way that my clients don't just plateau. And then I'm also bringing on a PT to see some clients for me and possibly take on some new clients while I'm out, and she will be virtual.
Great. And this is something two-way, right? So it gives your clients something where they're still staying active and staying on their program. It does another thing where it keeps you front of mind with them because you stay in contact with them, right? And then it keeps you having some income come in during that time. So from both this other person that could take clients from you, and then you providing this kind of like 8-week, thing. And again, you did it in a way that was really smart, not to overload your capacity, that you could, like you said, I can find time to do it. It's okay. It'll give me something to kind of structure my day. I sometimes think is good. And then these people, I think I believe you said that they would get, whoever chooses to stay on with you will get first dibs on appointments when you come back on the schedule. Right. So let's talk a little bit about business from like behind the scenes.
Okay.
What was something that really surprised you when you went into business for yourself that you never thought about before owning your own business?
So it's funny because when I started my own business, part of it was for the flexibility to be able to pick up my son and things like that. And obviously the things that come with that, I didn't realize how much I would be working when I wasn't working. I don't want to say it's extra work, it's stuff you have to do, but all the time I would spend doing stuff outside of traditional work hours. Now that before I was full-time for myself, that was rough because I'd be up working until like 10 p.m. every single night, just trying to get things in. Now that I'm full-time for myself, I've built in time to do those things. So I think that surprised me. It's not even worry, it's not even stress. It's just like the things you have to do. And then saying, okay, if I don't structure this into my day, I'm going to be up all night,
right,
completing it.
The stuff that goes on in a business that a lot of people don't realize, like the back end of the business. Yes. So I think that you're not the only one. That's usually the most common answer we get, that people are like, I had no idea that how much actually went into operating a business. And why would we? They don't tell us this. They don't teach us this in school. They don't, in any type of fitness certification, they're not teaching you really what goes on behind the scenes of business.
And just as of this month, I did bring on someone to do some admin work for me. She maybe does 5 hours a week for me right now, but I can't tell you it's been a game changer because she is single-handedly responsible for handling any inquiries that come in, as well as scheduling or rescheduling clients. So it's been,
which is great,
huge, because like in the course of a day, like especially if it's like a quote unquote busier day of people texting you, okay, I'm sick, I need to reschedule, or I need to get in to see you, like my back flared up or something. I could spend all my free time in a day doing that.
100%.
She does that now. So that's been incredibly helpful for me. And at the end of the day, like doing some of that admin stuff doesn't bother me, simply because I can sit outside and do it. I can be at the beach and do it. For me, the hardest thing now, as like I get busier, is doing things like I used to be great about being on my social media all the time. And that was a big way I got clients. That's really like taken a dip, because
I still think you do amazing on social media.
Well, thank you.
I think you do.
I'm always like, I have to do more. But what's funny is that anybody that's a mom can probably attest to this, like I work, but any kind of work, seeing clients, doing admin, that kind of stuff. I work between the hours of 8:30 and 4. From 4 p.m. to 8 p.m.
We really work.
I can do nothing. Right. I can do
we
nothing.
Really work.
Business. Yes. Like literally nothing. And anytime I've ever tried, I'm always like, why did I bother? Because that's when, I have to get my son it's the dinner thing, the bedtime thing. My husband gets home from work, all that stuff. Um, so anyway, so that's it's funny, but I'm in a place now where I don't worry. I'm not sitting on the couch doing work until 10 p.m. Kind of like when 4 p.m. hits, I'm done. And whatever I didn't get to, just get to the next day. And my stress level, which is funny, is probably the lowest it's ever been since I had my son.
Oh, I love to hear that.
Just knowing that, it's funny, you don't realize sometimes like you're holding on to stress. Like I had like some GI problems after I had my son for years, a C-section, and I just kind of blamed it on that. And then when I finally went full time for myself this summer, I was like, oh my God, it
Yeah.
really probably was stress, not being, feeling like I was in control of my life,
Mhm.
not being in control of my schedule, feeling like, like, oh my God, what if he has to go to this appointment? How do I even get him there? Then I have to take time off. Now it's just like, no big
I'll
deal.
figure it out. I'll
Yeah.
figure it out, And unless you're watching the video on YouTube, you can't see me, but I'm like nodding my head. And I think it's funny because even as physical therapists, right, as for our patients, we can see the stress manifest itself physiologically in our
Yes.
patients, right?
Yes.
And by the way, we can see it. I posted something the other day that was like a meme. It was like a cartoon of a person sitting in like their therapist's office, like all like when they're like, "How you doing?" And she's like, "I'm fine," and she's like all tense. And I'm like, "This is definitely how I go to my therapist." And she's like, "Are you sure you're not stressed?" I'm like, "I'm not stressed," but gut issues, GI issues, they're all manifestations of headaches. They're all manifestations of stress. And we don't really realize it, usually because we're high achieving women. And so we don't really realize it at the time. But I'm so happy to hear you say that you feel like you're the least stressed. And I'm super impressed with all the work you've done getting ready for baby number 2, getting all of your ducks in a row with this transition. You're so far ahead of the game where you're not behind the 8 ball and you're like, I'm ready to go. If something happens early, you're not
Yes.
you're not stressed about it. You've got your ducks in a row, you're ready to go. And the other mindset thing too that I think is really powerful for people is to say, it can happen tomorrow,
Yeah.
right? I can get this social post tomorrow.
Yes.
It's okay. Let me spend time with my kid or on the beach or
Yeah.
that's so awesome. So, okay, I have a few questions for you
Okay.
too about business. So, from a hybrid mobile perspective, and now you did go brick and mortar a little bit, like with a
Mhm.
rental, your overhead is pretty low. Would that
Yeah,
be correct?
that is correct.
Yes. And do you charge the same virtual as you do for in person?
Yes.
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 Okay. I
And just
think that's great. I
yeah,
know. I
just
think I was,
calling. It's
yeah, no, I think it's great. I think it's the same.
yes.
I think it's the same. So, one of the things that's really great with your type of business model is that the overhead is low. There's
Yes.
even I would assume that the rents that you have to pay for the OBGYN office is great and you have everything there. I'm sure it's a nice office. There's like parking there. You're technically not on the lease, so you're not holding like a personal guarantee on the lease. And what do you think is in the future if you think that far ahead after you come back from maternity leave?
So my plan is to be back to my full-time hours. So what I do now, I'd
Mhm.
like to be back there in January. And then once I get busier, I would really like to bring on a PT because the OBGYN office is not very busy in terms of their office between the hours of 4 and 7. They usually only
Mm.
have like 1 or 2 doctors there versus like in the middle of the day, there could be 4. So they keep encouraging me to come in and see clients between the hours of 4 and 7. But like we said before, I
That's
literally
not
can't
it.
do that. So
Yeah.
that would be for me, that's like my next step to try to find somebody, which, you know, that's a whole other thing. To find somebody that would like to fill those hours. And it could be Monday through Friday, it could be 1 day a week, but just to start to offer a little bit more.
That's awesome. And that could be even like you said, even 1 day a week. We have evening office hours 1 day a week,
Yep.
right? And then when you get a wait list, you can say, maybe we have even office hours 2 days a week. I
Right.
think that's great. And you're not taking on risk by having that overhead of we're going to have to do all of these visits. So really,
Yeah.
really, really smart. Do you know by any chance what you're projected to bring in August? Are we going to hit another $10,000 a month?
So I will not quite get there.
Yeah,
I think it's going to be more like 8.
it's still
Um,
great.
it's a slow, well, I'm sure maybe, I don't know. It's different because you're in Florida. August is historically just a slower time because everyone's taking their last minute vacations.
Yeah.
So like like this week I'm seeing, which is more than I normally see. I'm seeing like 18 people this week, which is a lot. I actually try to stay
Yeah.
at 15. But the next week's lower, like I
Yeah.
think 12. And then
So let's just rewind this a little bit too, because I want to hear people here that you said you hit a $10,000 month, seeing 15 on average, 15 clients a week.
Yes.
Okay. So on average, 60 clients a month generates $10,000, right? So this is not you saying I'm working 40 hours a week, I'm working 45 client hours a week. Now, that doesn't mean that there's not stuff that goes into the back end of prepping for that and record keeping and note and documentation. So, but that is amazing.
Yeah. And for me, like if I just stayed like, okay, if I wasn't the way I am, right, about just like needing to progress, right? Oh, things always need to be progressing. Just like doing that, seeing 15 people a week, and just if that was just what I did all the time, like that would be great. Like that would be terrific.
You'd be generating $120,000 a year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
at 15 hours a week. Again, not apples to apples. There's always a little more to that, but I think it can be done, and it just takes a little bit of time and prepping and putting the right strategies in place and having the right mindset of when to do what, and strategic planning so that you can grow organically, right? And it doesn't take a huge investment, doesn't take a huge capital investment to do that. And you're kind of, you're the captain of the ship.
Yeah.
And I think that's really, really powerful, right? And you can spend the time home with your son, and this is all, and your next, do we know what you're having?
I'm having a girl.
A girl. So boy and girl. So, so when is your due date? Is the end of September?
October 4th.
Oh, October. So right at the beginning of October. Yeah. And how are you feeling?
Pretty good. I mean, not good. Everyone's like, are you cutting back your hours in September? And like, of course I'm not. Because I'm just like, then what? I mean, I feel,
you know what you can do, we've talked about this, like you can do, if that arises and you're not feeling well, you can make that decision at that time.
Yes. And just transition people to virtual visits or whatever. But for right now, I'm feeling very good, which is, great. Awesome. I felt good with my son. I, had a pretty even pregnancy. And in general, my life, just my like actual life, personal life, going into having this baby compared to going into having my son is like completely different. So
amazing.
I feel a lot more relaxed about that. And I think, I know we didn't really touch on this that much, and not to get like so personal about things, but just for anybody listening that maybe hasn't started their business, or I know because people sometimes reach out to me and they're like, how'd you start? Whatever, like that, there are always going to be excuses as to why you can't do something. And for a very long time, I let the story or what I told myself about my husband's job stop me. I'm not gonna get into what he does or anything, but like just completely unpredictable, can never, like we literally always made an agreement that anything if he ever said, this is my schedule, like it's never the schedule. Working at night, working crazy hours, plus he's in the military. I let that stop me for a long time, just saying like, how could I do this if he's so busy with his career? And it wasn't until I heard another person kind of in the pelvic floor, like postpartum world, heard her talk and found out her husband did the same thing my husband did. And I was just like, oh my God, if she can do it, I can do this. And and just like, you can still go for your dreams and be supported and like get there. And granted, okay, maybe I started my business in March. it'll be 3 years. So it's been like 2.5 years, and it's really been the past 6 months where I've had growth, but you just like whittle away and you'll
Yeah.
get.
And maybe if your path has to be a little different because of your
Yes.
circumstance, that's okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And I think it's really important. Somebody asked me the other day, oh, why did you get into like business mentoring? And I was like, I will say it's similar to what you were saying. When I was coming up and just starting opening a business, I never had entrepreneurship models for me.
Yeah.
Like my mom came from Cuba. She didn't go to college. I put myself through college. There was no family money that opened my business. And so when I looked at the people in business that were ahead of me, I didn't see anyone that looked like me. And I don't mean physically, I just mean
Yes.
I saw men there, or I saw women that had corporate backgrounds, or I saw women that had investor capital, or Nike started their company, or they worked at, this, Reebok for 5 years and they have MBAs. And so I never saw someone that was a mom that had kids I have a master's in science, in physical therapy, by the way,
Yes.
not even in anything like super
Right.
exciting, and a bachelor's in health science. So I don't think I took a finance class.
Right.
So when I do this to show women you can create whatever business you would like. We can learn the tools.
Yes.
We are high achieving women. No, it's just that nobody taught us that. And so for so long, I thought I told the story in my head that I could not break 7 figures because I don't have an MBA, or I can't be profitable because I have no idea what I'm doing. And
Right.
finally, I was like, well, maybe I can. And it's just one foot in front of the other.
Right.
It's just one foot in front of the other. And that's what we do. And the testament to you, though, is that you haven't given up and you've just like you're the perfect student, I would say, because you take information, you take feedback really well, and then you just go do it.
Mm-hmm.
And without action, none of this happens.
Yeah.
So, that is a testament to you and your hard work and your dedication and trying to create a great life for you and your husband and your 2 children. So that's super exciting. And I'm super, super excited for you.
Thank you.
Yeah. When you posted about taking the jump, I was really excited. And then when you posted about your $10,000 a month, like your first month out of your job, I was super excited.
Yeah. Thank you.
Your success is inevitable. So let's tell people where they can find you if they would like to follow you.
Sure. So I'm only on Instagram. It's really the only social platform I use, at Essentials PT. So for any PTs out there, you're going to see Essential SPT, because we all do.
I told you that too. I was like,
I do it too.
It's SPT.
So I'm at Essentials PT, and then my website is essentialspt.com. But if you want to chat, even if you're like someone that's in a similar situation, like in your personal life, and you're just like I have no one to talk to, nobody's like me, you can just DM me on Instagram. I always answer.
Yeah, totally. She's very active on Instagram, and her Instagram stuff. I think you do a great job on social.
Well, thank you.
So I think that's awesome. We are going to link all of that up in the show notes. And I do agree, like having a community, I think that's one of the great things in the FitBiz Foundation's community, is just having a community of other like-minded women that are sharing their experiences. And we actually have a couple that are pregnant in the group. So it's like kind of an interesting thing too. So I think the power of community during this time is really valuable.
It is. I've met an absolutely great friend that's also in the community, and her and I mean, we talk on the phone every single week. Like, I love it. We talk all the time. So it's been great. And I think, taking that jump and saying, this is serious, right? This isn't a hobby. This is serious. I'm going to take it seriously. Has just helped.
Yeah. And look at you now. You're going to, if you were going to keep working for the rest of the year, you were going to break 6 figures already. So, well, I thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story with us. And we will air this before you have a baby.
Okay, great.
And I will talk to you much more before that, but best of luck with your new addition to your family. And hopefully we'll have you come back on after baby number 2 and we can share the rest of your journey.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Krista.
Thanks, Ali. All right, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this episode. And until next time, bye for now.
Bye.